Hey there, Wargamers. This is Jstncloud here with another episode of my Tactical Tuesday series. And this week I'd like to do something kind of like the other weeks. It's a little bit different, not pure tactics for gameplay per se, but tactics in building your force and where to start. This week in particular is aimed towards the players that are new to the game or new to Tau, and basically what HQ should you choose. Now I'm going to start off with my Forge World guy, Commander Ryla. The only reason I'm going to start off with that is because I'm going to get him out of the way, basically. If you are a veteran player, then you may be familiar with Forge World, and he may be an option for you. Let's go ahead and zoom in on him. Turn him a little bit. Alright, so basically he's out of the new 2nd edition printing of the Taros campaign from Forge World. He's not part of the campaign, but there is a updated rule set for him there, and it's the only place you're going to find it. Essentially, he's around 190 points, toughness 5. He comes with 2 networked marker light drones, which are really nice, simply because in the Tau Codex you don't get a lot of networked marker lights. It's kind of a rare feature now. So being able to marker light something and use its ballistic skill for your own unit instead of benefiting someone else purely is really nice. In particular, he has a 5 ballistic skill. He also has a drone controller, so his network marker light drones fire at ballistic skill 5, actually it might be 6, but regardless, they're hitting on 2s, and he can choose to use those marks for himself, potentially taking away cover, or he can leave them for another unit to fire with. The other benefit that he has is he's got a great invuln save. It's a 3-up at range due to his shield here. And he's got a 4-up in melee, which is pretty substantial. He's pretty resilient as well. Not too much is going to be instant killing him other than force weapons and then railguns, stuff like that. He also has, and this is one of the key features for him, he has a special weapon that has, I think, 3 or 4 different firing modes. He's got an anti-armor, basically, shell that's just single shots. He gets 2 of them. Then he has a variety of template weapons, ranging from anti-cover to haywire. The downside to this is if you use anything other than a standard shot, which is a large blast ignores cover, he has a chance to get hot. But I feel like that's a good balancing factor because he does get the versatility of all those different shells. The major downside to Commander Ryla is his points. He's around 190, which isn't bad, but it's a lot of points. The fact he's a Forge World model, and you would need a rule set. Players may or may not be willing to let you use him. And the major downside to him is that he is an independent character, but in his rules he is not allowed to join another unit. So the only way to make him kind of a Death Star shooty unit is to have another HQ join him, and at that point you're devoting so many points that it's almost not worth it. So if you do consider him, keep in mind that he's kind of a lone ranger, so to speak. He's going to shoot things and he's going to be alone. The fact that he's going to be alone also means he's going to be drawing a lot of fire. So now, moving on to the HQ choices that are not Forge World, we've got the Crisis Suit Commander, Commander Shadow Sun, Cadre Fireblade, and Dark Strider. I do not have Oshava up here, Farsight, but I will talk about him so you guys can know he would be standing right around here if I actually owned him. So let's start with we'll go ahead and start with Oshava. Oshava, if you are a new player and you're getting into 40k, the thing you need to know about Oshava is his special ability to deep strike and not scatter. The thing that makes this particularly brutal is the fact that he can bring in, I believe it's a 7-man strong Crisis Suit bodyguard unit with him, and they would not scatter. So you can land somewhere and have a guaranteed shoot the heck out of whatever you want type of scenario. The downside from the new player perspective is Warhammer 40k is expensive. If you're going to run a Farsight, you probably want to go ahead and get his maxed out bodyguard, or at least several bodyguard or Crisis Suit models to fill his bodyguard. If you're not planning to get the Crisis Suits, your part of the points you're putting in a Farsight are lost because he is designed to jump in and shoot the heck out of something. So bear that in mind when you use him. He also has a really nice melee, one of the only few Tau units that does. And with his new supplement, he's got some other nifty tricks that I'll go into in a future video. So, steering away from Farsight and going into the regular Crisis Suit Commander, I will say I think he is one of the best options in the book. From the new player perspective, if this is your first 40k army, The real benefit to the Crisis Suit Commander is he is going to run you about 185 points with all of his gizmos, and he has a lot of versatility. When you build him, there are a lot of options that you can use. You can go supporty with him if you want him to join a unit and buff that unit, or you can go damage with him and make him kind of the hammer. I prefer making him the hammer, so to speak, and he's got the Cyclic Ion and the Airburst Fragmentation. And that's just the two out of the box that I thought looks cool. When I build him, I also give him the Shield Generator, a Stimulant Injector, and Iridium Armor. So he's got a 2-up Armor Save, 4-up Invuln, 5+ Feel No Pain, and he's Toughness 5. He's a force to be reckoned with, and the fact that he can bounce around. And I also give him Honor Guard Gauntlets. I played a few games with the guys over at Brush for Hire, and kudos to Austin for kind of forcing me to think outside the box, and I realized the Honor Guard Gauntlets are really good for 5 points on your Crisis Suit Commander, simply because if the opponent manages to get you into an assault, you want to have an option to get yourself out. And the Honor Guard Gauntlets being Strength 10, Initiative, 2 or whatever, does give you some kind of an option to punch a sergeant in the face or even an enemy HQ. If you're going to be locked in melee anyway, you might as well at least have some type of defense, and I find that has worked really well. It's also caught some opponents off guard because they don't expect my Crisis Suit Commander to be punching their sergeants or their HQs in the face with Strength 10. And I believe it's AP 1 or 2, something like that. So, anyways, he's really good. I run him a lot on his own, or I'll attach him to Crisis Suits or Stealth Suits and have him bouncing around. But he's really good. Point for point is not a bad model, and it's a good investment. The other thing, or the downside to him, is he's a little bit pricey dollar-wise to purchase. I believe he clocks in around $40. But if you're building a new army, and let's say you're building for the 1,000 point or 1,500 point level, he's definitely a good point sink, and it's less models that you have to purchase at that point to fill your point total. So, moving on to the next HQ in line here, we have Commander Shadowsun. I have not used her too terribly much. Go ahead and just bring her to the front here. However, I do think she is good, but she's kind of a one-trick pony. She's got 2 Fusion Blasters, which are basically range 18 Melt-A-Guns, and that is nice. The fact she can also fire 2 different units is nice. She has a couple of different drone options, which is also nice. However, I feel like the Crisis Suit Commander has, and even Farsight, have a little bit more versatility than she does, particularly when it comes into considering anti-infantry options. She's more of a tank killer / HQ killer. The one benefit she does have for units, and let me bring one of these forward, and this is something to consider when purchasing her or considering using her, she automatically gets the Warlord trait that lets her bounce move be 3d6 instead of 2. And if you put her with Stealth Suits, they automatically pass Lookout Sir rolls, and they get to bounce 3d6 with her. In addition to having a basically 2-up cover save if they're in any kind of terrain, and 4-up cover save out in the open. That, along with the weapons that the Stealth Suits can bring, could make her pretty formidable to fight against. However, from the new player perspective, you have to keep in mind if you purchase Shadowsun, you're probably going to want to get Stealth Suits or Crisis Suits to attach to her. You really don't want her running around by herself, simply because you don't want her to get shot in the face and taken out really quickly. So, personally, I enjoy playing the Stealth Suits with her, and the Stealth Suits even with the Crisis Suit Commander, simply because, range 18 burst guns, 4 shots, it's a whole bunch of bullets, and they're cheap, and, their saves are reasonable. If you get them into cover, or if your opponent has to fire through cover or intervening models, it's really tough to take out Stealth Suits. So, moving on to our next HQ in line, and this is probably my second favorite HQ in the book, Cadre Fireblade. The reason that I like him is the fact that he's cheap, 60 points, and if you attach him to a set of Fire Warriors, if they do not move, the whole unit gets to fire twice with their pulse rifles. That's amazing. At 30 inches, firing twice. 12-man squad of Fire Warriors, 24 shots. If your opponent happens to be within rapid fire range, you're getting 36 shots. That's obscene, and he's dirt cheap. The thing to consider from the new player perspective is that if you are going to run Cadre Fireblade, you're going to definitely going to want to have some Fire Warriors, obviously. He doesn't benefit much other than that. I don't think there's much reason to put him with Kroot, but the Fire Warriors definitely benefit greatly from him. You're also going to want to have to consider your survivability on having him in a unit of Fire Warriors. as soon as your opponent sees him on the field, he's going to draw fire. That's inevitable. And you're going to want a way to keep him alive. So you may want to consider an Aegis defense line or something of that nature. Also, if you have watched any of my other videos, you will see that this guy has some U's on his back, which some players may find that blasphemous. However, they are battle brothers with Space Marines, so if you were to bring Tau in as allies, he is a cheap way to fulfill the HQ requirement. Moving on to the next HQ that we have here. This is Darkstrider. I got him because I think his model looks really awesome, to be perfectly honest with you. However, he is kind of designed to go with Fire Warriors or Pathfinders, but I feel like he doesn't really benefit the Pathfinders that much, and if you're going to use him, it's just like Cadre Fireblade. You're really going to want to put him with a whole bunch of Fire Warriors. And the reason for this is he has an ability where he and his unit, when they are firing at an enemy unit, treat that enemy unit as having one less toughness. So if you're firing a pulse rifle at strength 5 into a Space Marine at toughness 4, if Darkstrider's in your unit, it's now considered toughness 3. This is great, and I think it's got some good options if you're going to run a Devilfish and maybe jump out and rapid fire someone to death. However, me personally, I feel like him coming in at around 100 points versus Fireblade coming in at 60, Fireblade kind of edges him out and makes himself more useful. Not to mention Fireblade's got a Marker Light and a Pulse Rifle, whereas Darkstrider only has a Marker Light and a Pulse Carbine. So the Darkstrider can actually reach out and touch you further away, and if he doesn't move, he gets to fire twice. So at 30 inches, 2 shots, ballistic skill 5. So it's pretty viable. Now, the one model that I do not have up here that I would like to talk about is the Ethereals. Now, me personally, if you ever see me talk about Tau, I pretty much am dead set against Kroot, and I did not care for Ethereals at all. However, I broke down and bought one from a guy on DACA. I have not got around to painting him. And unfortunately, he's in another room right now, so he's not here for the video. But the thing I will say about the Ethereals, if you're a new player, keep in mind if you purchase an Ethereal for your army and you're starting out Tau fresh, he's designed to buff your infantry. If you're going to run an Ethereal, you're going to want massive amounts of Fire Warriors. They give area, if you're within X amount of inches of him, you get this benefit type of effects. Stubborn and things of that nature. In addition, he can also take, I believe it's called a Black Sun Filter, which ignores night fighting. By the rules, if I recall correctly, the Black Sun Filter makes it, as long as you have one in the unit, makes it to where the whole unit ignores night fighting. So he does have that going for him. You can put him in a squad of Fire Warriors, and that one squad ignores night fighting. But unless you're going up against Necrons, who may potentially try and force night fighting multiple times, you're not going to have more than most likely a few turns of night fighting, if that. Early on, you may get one early turn. Late game, you may get 2. The odds are kind of against night fighting happening. So that's it. He's definitely good. It's great for synergy. But from a new player perspective, if you're trying to minimize your dollar investment, if you purchase a Ethereal, he is cheap to field and designed to be fielded with mass numbers of Fire Warriors. So if you're getting an Ethereal, you probably want to expect to be fielding 3 to 4, maybe even maxed out Fire Warrior units, just to have a big blob of blasting death behind an Aegis line, and it's going to be costly to field. So, doing a quick recap here. Forge World Commander Ryla, your opponents may or may not be cool with him. He can't attach to squads. Crisis Suit Commander, good bang for your buck, lots of versatility from the weapons perspective and upgrades, and he comes in at around 185 points with reasonable upgrades. That's a good point investment, and he's a force to be reckoned with. Commander Shadow Sun, definitely good, almost a one-trick pony, benefits really well from being with stealth suits and bouncing around and just being, wreaking havoc in the backfield on your opponent / sniping out sergeants, HQs, or vehicles when applicable. Cadre Fireblade, really good for synergy, similar to the Ethereal in that he benefits greatly from being put with Fire Warriors, but not to the same extent. Definitely useful, good points, or good investment of points, though he is low, so 60 points. If you did go with him, you're probably going to be having to buy more models to fill out points depending on what point total you're going with. And Darkstrider, cool looking model, but to get full effectiveness out of him, you would really need to run him probably with Cadre Fireblade and just have one Death Star Fire Warrior unit, shooting 2 shots if they don't move, and treating your enemy unit as having 1 less toughness. However, doing that makes that Fire Warrior unit such a juicy target that your opponent may focus it until it's completely useless. So, cool looking model, kind of fails at his point total because he's actually more than Fireblade. So, with all that being said, I hope that you guys have enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe. Please leave comments as well. If you've agreed with the things that I've talked about, or you have general comments or questions, please feel free to chime in. I'd love to hear from you, and I will try to respond to all the comments that I get. Please stay tuned for next week, and I will try to continue on with my Tactical Tuesday series and do an analysis of troop choices and try and tie all together the HQ and troop choice synergy and help you guys out there who are new to TAL or new to 40K period to understand building a force and perhaps help you to make your first 40K purchase or your next army viable. And it's definitely good to have some information and some insight before making a purchase. So, as always, hope you guys enjoyed, and happy wargaming.